softly over New York City, its rhythmic patter creating a somber symphony that resonated with Tyler's internal discord. He stepped out of the elegant restaurant, its warm glow a stark contrast to the chill of the stormy night. Tyler adjusted his tailored coat against the biting wind, his mind still lingering on the hollow conversation he had just endured with his business partners. They had toasted to success, but beneath the clinking glasses and forced laughter, he felt a profound emptiness that no amount of wealth could fill. As he walked down the sidewalk, the glimmering lights of the city blurred in his vision, distorted by the rain that cascaded down his face. He was a millionaire, a man of significant influence, yet he felt like a ghost wandering through a world teeming with life. The bustling streets filled with laughter and chatter only served to amplify his solitude. He passed couples huddled under umbrellas, families rushing to find refuge from the downpour, and street performers playing for tips. Each scene heightened his sense of isolation, a reminder of the connections he had allowed to slip away in his relentless pursuit of success. Tyler paused for a moment, leaning against a lamppost as the rain intensified, soaking the pavement. He closed his eyes, letting the cool droplets wash over him, as if hoping to cleanse himself of the weight he carried. Just then, a faint sound broke through the din of the storm, a soft, desperate cry. It was a sound so out of place amidst the city's chaos that it pierced through his melancholy. Curiosity piqued, Tyler straightened up and strained to hear better. "Is that?" he murmured to himself, tilting his head as he focused on the direction of the cries. They were muffled yet persistent, a plea for help that tugged at his heart. Without thinking, he began to follow the sound, his feet splashing through puddles as he navigated the slick sidewalk. The cries grew louder, echoing through the night air, and soon Tyler found himself in a dimly lit alleyway. The streetlights cast eerie shadows against the brick walls, and the rain continued to pour, creating a dissonant lullaby. As he ventured deeper into the alley, his heart raced, a mix of trepidation and urgency fueling his steps. Then he saw her, a small bundle lying on the cold, damp ground. Wrapped in a tattered blanket, the child was alone, her tiny body shivering against the elements. Tyler's breath caught in his throat as he approached, his heart pounding in his chest. The sight was both heartbreaking and surreal, a stark reminder of the fragility of life. "Oh my God," he whispered, kneeling beside the child. The baby's cries intensified, filled with fear and hunger. Tyler's heart ached at the sight, and he gently reached out, carefully unwrapping the blanket to reveal a tiny face streaked with tears and raindrops. She couldn't have been more than a few months old, her delicate features scrunched in distress. "Hey there, little one," Tyler said softly, his voice trembling with emotion. "What are you doing out here all alone?" He looked around the alley, half expecting someone to emerge from the shadows, but it was deserted. The city felt eerily silent, as if holding its breath for a moment. Tyler felt a surge of protectiveness wash over him, pushing aside any doubts that lingered in his mind. This child needed him. "I can't leave you here," he murmured, his hands trembling slightly as he lifted her gently into his arms. The baby fit snugly against his chest, warmth radiating from her small body as he cradled her close. The cries began to subside, replaced by soft whimpers as she nestled against him, seeking comfort. Tyler's mind raced. He needed to call for help, to find someone who could take care of her properly. But as he looked down at the baby, he felt a strange sense of urgency. There was something about her innocent eyes that stirred a long-buried instinct within him, a flicker of purpose that he hadn't felt in years. This child was vulnerable, and he had the means to protect her, at least for the moment. "I'll get you home," he said, determination hardening in his voice. "I promise." He pulled out his phone, his fingers hovering over the screen as he contemplated the best course of action. Should he call the police? An ambulance? But a part of him hesitated. What if she was taken away from him? He felt an inexplicable bond forming, a connection that transcended the chaos of the city and the rain-soaked night. "Just hold on, sweetheart," he whispered, his heart racing as he made a decision. He would take her home. It was reckless, perhaps even foolish, but in that moment, the thought of leaving her alone in that alley was unbearable. He wrapped the blanket around her more securely, cradling her against him as he turned on his heel and headed back toward his car. The rain continued to pour, but Tyler felt a strange warmth enveloping him as he walked, the weight of his decision settling into place. Each step felt lighter, as if the burden he had carried for so long was beginning to lift. This baby, this innocent life, had ignited something within him, a flicker of hope amidst the darkness that threatened to consume him. As he reached his sleek black sedan, he opened the door and carefully placed the baby in the passenger seat, fastening her seatbelt with trembling hands. "You're safe now," he assured her, running his fingers through her hair in a soothing motion. She gazed up at him with wide, trusting eyes, and in that moment he knew he could not go back to the life he once led. Tyler climbed into the driver's seat, his heart racing with a mixture of fear and excitement. The city loomed around him, still vibrant and alive, but it felt different now. The lights seemed to twinkle with promise, and he realized he had a purpose, something he had long thought lost to him. With a determined resolve, he started the engine and pulled away from the curb, navigating through the rain-soaked streets. He glanced at the baby, her eyes fluttering as she settled into a peaceful slumber. Tyler smiled, a genuine smile that felt foreign, yet liberating. "Let's get you home," he said softly. And in that moment he knew that this unexpected encounter would change the course of both their lives forever. As the rain continued to patter against the windows of his upscale Manhattan penthouse, Tyler carefully laid the baby in a makeshift crib he had fashioned from an old laundry basket, lined with soft blankets. The infant, momentarily quiet, gazed up at him with wide, innocent eyes. Tyler felt a warmth spread through him, a sensation he had long since buried beneath layers of ambition and solitude. He couldn't help but wonder about the life the child had left behind. "What kind of world have you come from, little one?" he murmured, brushing a gentle finger across the baby's cheek. "What kind of people would abandon you?" The baby cooed softly, and for a fleeting moment, Tyler was transported back to his own childhood, before wealth and success had isolated him. He recalled the laughter of his family, the warmth of their home, and the simplicity of love that had once enveloped him. The memory was bittersweet, a stark contrast to the lavish but empty life he led now. He had hurried home with the baby, driven by a sense of urgency that had ignited his heart. Now, as he watched the child, he felt the weight of his isolation begin to lift. It was as if caring for this tiny being had awakened a dormant part of himself, one that craved connection and purpose. He sighed, realizing that he had taken on a responsibility far beyond what he had anticipated, yet he felt strangely at peace. Tyler stood and paced around the living room, his thoughts racing. He had no idea how to care for a child. He had never even held a baby before tonight. The enormity of the situation settled on his shoulders, and he felt a pang of panic. "What am I doing?" he whispered to himself, glancing back at the baby, who was now wiggling her tiny fingers. "Okay, Mia," he said, deciding on a name impulsively. "Let's see what we can do." He rummaged through his kitchen cabinets, pulling out a bottle and some formula he had bought for emergencies. He had never imagined he would actually need it. As he prepared the bottle, he spoke softly to Mia. "You know, I was just about to have dinner before I found you, but I think you're more important than a fancy meal." Once the bottle was ready, he sat on the couch and cradled Mia in his arms, feeling an unfamiliar sense of fulfillment wash over him. The baby latched onto the bottle, her tiny mouth working diligently as she drank. Tyler found himself smiling, mesmerized by the simple act of nurturing. Hours passed, and the city outside continued to drown in rain. Tyler had fallen into a rhythm, adjusting the volume on the TV to a low murmur, allowing him to keep an eye on the news while checking on Mia. He learned to change her diaper, to soothe her when she cried, and even to play silly games that made her giggle. Each little triumph felt monumental, and he couldn't help but laugh along with her, his heart swelling with pride. But as the night wore on and exhaustion crept in, Tyler's mind was bombarded with questions. Where had Mia come from? Why was she alone? He felt an urgency to find her family, but the thought also filled him with dread. What if they were unfit? What if they had left her for a reason? With the dawn approaching, Tyler finally laid Mia back in her makeshift crib, watching as her eyelids grew heavy. He slipped into the kitchen to pour himself a strong coffee, his mind racing through the possibilities that lay ahead. He needed to take action. After a sleepless night, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the clouds, casting a soft glow across his penthouse. Tyler sat at his sleek dining table, staring blankly at his phone. He had decided to contact local authorities, but the thought of doing so filled him with a mix of hope and dread. "All right, enough stalling," he muttered, finally picking up the phone. His fingers hovered over the screen as he located the number for the local precinct. After a deep breath, he pressed call and waited, his heart pounding in his chest. 911, what's your emergency?" a calm voice answered. Tyler swallowed hard, feeling a lump in his throat. I found a baby. She was abandoned on the sidewalk last night." "Can you provide your location?" the operator asked, her tone professional and steady. Tyler relayed his address, his mind racing with the implications of what he was doing. I'm taking care of her now, but I want to make sure she's safe. I need help finding her family." "Stay calm, we'll send someone over," the operator assured him, her voice soothing. "Can you describe the child?" As he spoke, describing Mia's features and the blanket she was wrapped in, Tyler's heart sank further. The weight of his decision settled heavily upon him. He had taken a leap into the unknown, and now he was left to grapple with the consequences. After hanging up, he paced the floor, anxiety coursing through him. He wanted to protect Mia, to keep her safe from whatever darkness had led her to him, but he also felt a gnawing fear that he might not be equipped to fight for her future. The doorbell rang, jolting him from his thoughts. Tyler rushed to the door, opening it to find two uniformed officers standing on his doorstep, their expressions serious yet kind. "Mr. Tyler Donovan?" one of them asked, glancing down at a notepad. "Yes," he replied, stepping aside to let them in. "Thank you for coming." The officers entered, their eyes quickly scanning the modern space before settling on the crib, where Mia lay peacefully sleeping. "Can you tell us what happened?" the other officer prompted, his tone gentle. Tyler took a deep breath, recounting the events of the previous night. As he spoke, he could see the officers exchanging glances, their expressions shifting from concern to a sense of urgency. Once he finished, the first officer nodded. "We need to gather some information about the baby. Do you have any identification for her?" Tyler shook his head. "No, I found her alone. I don't even know her name." The officers took notes, and after a moment, one of them asked, "Do you have any idea where she might have come from?" "I don't know," Tyler admitted, his voice heavy with the weight of uncertainty. "I was hoping you could help." They assured him that they would do everything they could to locate Mia's family. As they left, Tyler felt a mix of relief and apprehension. The ball was rolling, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing on the precipice of something much larger than himself. With a sense of determination igniting within him, Tyler resolved to visit the neighborhood where he had found Mia. He needed to dig deeper, to uncover the truth behind this child's story. As he stepped out into the world, the rain had finally ceased, leaving the streets glistening under the morning sun. Tyler felt invigorated, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. He was no longer just a millionaire wandering through life. He was a man on a mission, and for the first time in years, he felt alive. In the neighborhood surrounding his penthouse, Tyler began to ask around, approaching people on the sidewalks and in shops. "Excuse me," he would say. "I'm looking for information about a baby I found last night." Most people looked at him with confusion, but a few offered sympathetic smiles. As he spoke to more people, he began piecing together fragments of information. An older woman with a weathered face mentioned a recent report of a missing child. "There's been talk around here," she said, her voice low. "A little girl. She went missing a few days ago. I hope that's not her." Tyler felt a chill run down his spine. "Do you know anything more about the family?" The woman shook her head, but her eyes glimmered with concern. "I've heard they were good people, just having a rough time." "Do you know where I could find them?" Tyler pressed, eager for a lead. "Maybe at the community center down the street," she suggested. "They've been holding a vigil for the little girl." Grateful for the direction, Tyler thanked her, and hurried towards the community center. His heart raced as the significance of what he was about to do began to sink in. He was stepping into a volatile situation, one that could change everything. As he entered the bustling community center, he was met with the sight of a group of people gathered together, their faces etched with sorrow and hope. Posters of the missing girl lined the walls, each one a reminder of the family's anguish. Tyler felt a knot in his stomach as he approached a woman who appeared to be coordinating the efforts. "Excuse me, I'm looking for information about a missing baby," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The woman turned to him, her eyes wide with a mixture of hope and apprehension. "What do you know?" "I found a baby last night, and I think she may be connected to the missing girl." The woman's breath hitched, and she quickly motioned for him to follow her to a quieter corner. "Do you have her with you?" "No, I took her home for the night. I called the authorities, but I wanted to come here to learn more." As they spoke, Tyler felt a sense of urgency building within him. He was no longer just a spectator. The rain continued to fall softly against the windows of Tyler's sleek Manhattan penthouse, creating a rhythmic backdrop to the otherwise quiet atmosphere. He sat on the edge of his plush leather sofa, his heart heavy with an unfamiliar weight. In his arms lay Mia, the tiny baby he had found abandoned on the street just days earlier. He had named her Mia, a name that felt soft and full of promise, even amidst the uncertainty that surrounded her origins. Tyler gazed down at her cherubic face, her tiny fingers curled around his thumb. In that moment, the world outside faded away. He could barely remember a time when he felt this kind of connection. The emptiness that had defined his life as a wealthy, successful businessman was slowly being filled with a sense of purpose, one that had eluded him for years. "Where did you come from, little one?" he murmured softly, brushing a loose strand of hair from her forehead. He couldn't shake the feeling that Mia was meant to be a part of his life, that her presence was a sign that he needed to change. But what did that mean? The thought weighed heavily on him, stirring a sense of urgency within. As the days slipped by, Tyler found himself growing more attached to Mia. He took care of her, feeding her, changing her, and even singing softly to her at night. Each moment spent with her was a bittersweet reminder of the life he had led before. He had poured everything into his career, but now he questioned whether the sacrifices he made were worth it. Loneliness had been his companion for far too long, and now he felt the stirrings of something new. "Is it too much to hope for a family?" he pondered aloud one evening as he cradled Mia against his chest. The baby cooed in response, and he chuckled softly. "I guess that's a yes." Just then, there was a knock at the door, sharp and insistent. Tyler's heart raced as he glanced at Mia, who looked up at him with wide, innocent eyes. He wasn't expecting anyone, and the sudden interruption of their quiet evening felt jarring. "Stay here, okay?" he whispered, placing her gently in the makeshift crib he had fashioned out of cushions and blankets. He stood up, adjusting his shirt as he walked toward the door. The rain had intensified, and the sound added an ominous note to the otherwise mundane moment. He opened the door to find a woman standing there, her dark hair drenched and her clothes clinging to her body. She looked disheveled and desperate, and Tyler instinctively felt a pang of empathy. "Can I help you?" he asked, trying to mask his surprise. "Tyler?" she asked, her voice shaky. "I'm Sarah. I think I might have information about the baby." His heart raced. "Come in," he said, stepping aside to let her enter. As she crossed the threshold, he noticed how her eyes darted around the apartment, taking in the surroundings. She seemed to be searching for something, perhaps a sign of safety or reassurance. "Thank you," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know where else to go." Tyler motioned for her to sit down, and she sank into the couch, her hands trembling in her lap. "What do you know about Mia?" he asked, keeping his tone gentle, aware of the fragility of the moment. "I heard about a baby that was found abandoned," she began, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I lost my daughter a few months ago. She was taken from me." A sob broke through, and Sarah quickly covered her mouth, trying to regain her composure. "I'm so sorry," Tyler said sincerely, his heart aching for her. "What happened?" "It's a long story," she said, taking a deep breath to steady herself. My husband, he betrayed me. He got involved with the wrong people, and when I tried to leave him, he took our daughter. I haven't seen her since. I thought she was gone for good. Sarah's voice trembled with emotion. But when I heard about Mia, something inside me told me to come here. Tyler watched her, feeling the weight of her words. You think Mia is your daughter? He asked cautiously. I don't know, she replied, wiping her eyes. But I need to know. If there's any chance, I just can't sit back and do nothing. So I have to at least try. As Sarah spoke, Tyler felt a mix of emotions swirling within him. He could see her desperation, the raw pain etched into her features. It mirrored the emptiness he had felt for so long, and for the first time, he recognized a kindred spirit in her struggle. Tell me everything, he urged, leaning forward. I want to help you. A flicker of hope ignited in Sarah's eyes. I've been following rumors in the community. There are whispers about a child trafficking ring operating in the area. I thought I was going crazy, but then I heard about the baby being found, and it felt like a sign. Tyler's heart raced at the mention of trafficking. It was a grim reality he had only heard about in passing, yet now it seemed all too real. We need to do something, he said firmly. If there's any chance Mia is your daughter, we have to investigate. Sarah nodded, her determination growing. Thank you for believing me. I felt so alone in this. My friends, they turned their backs on me when everything fell apart. Tyler understood that feeling all too well. The wealth and status that once surrounded him had all but disappeared in the face of his own isolation. You're not alone anymore, he said, his voice steady. We'll figure this out together. As they spoke, the rain continued to pour outside, the sound echoing the tumult of emotions both were experiencing. In that moment of shared vulnerability, an unexpected bond began to form between Tyler and Sarah, one rooted in their mutual desire to uncover the truth and heal their wounds. Days turned into nights, and together they began to piece together the fragments of Mia's story. Sarah's insights, born from her own loss, fueled their search for answers, while Tyler's resources and determination provided the means to delve deeper into the shadows of the city. With each conversation they had, each lead they pursued, the connection between them deepened, revealing layers of complexity in their lives that they had both kept hidden for far too long. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, poring over information they had gathered, Tyler turned to Sarah with a newfound sense of purpose. We're going to find Mia's family. I can feel it. Thank you, Tyler, she said, her eyes shining with gratitude. I don't know what I would have done without you. You don't have to thank me, he replied, his gaze steady. I'm just as invested in this as you are. We've both lost something precious. And in that shared understanding, they found solace. The quiet apartment, once filled with silence, now echoed with the sounds of renewed hope and determination. Together, they would uncover the truth, no matter where it might lead them. The rain had finally subsided, leaving behind a glistening sheen on the streets of New York City. Tyler stood by the window of his penthouse, gazing out at the bustling streets below, where life continued unabated despite the tempest that had just passed. The warmth of the room contrasted sharply with the chill that still clung to his bones, a reminder of the night he had found Mia, the infant who had unwittingly woven herself into the fabric of his life. He had thought wealth could buy him happiness, but now he understood that true fulfillment came from connection, something he had long been missing. A soft knock on the door pulled him from his reverie. It was Sarah, her face a mixture of hope and apprehension as she stepped inside, a hint of the storm still lingering in her eyes. Tyler motioned for her to sit, his heart racing with the thought of their burgeoning partnership. They had spent the past few days piecing together the puzzle of Mia's origin, and with each passing hour, their bond deepened. Have you thought more about what we discussed yesterday? Sarah asked, her voice steady, yet laced with urgency. Yeah, Tyler replied, running a hand through his hair. I've been doing some research on child trafficking in the area. It's more extensive than I realized. He turned to face her fully, his expression serious. We need to tread carefully. This isn't just about finding Mia's family anymore. It's about protecting her. Sarah nodded, her brow furrowed in thought. I know it's dangerous, but I can't just sit back and do nothing. If my sister is involved somehow." Her voice trailed off, the weight of her unspoken fears hanging heavily in the air. "I'll do whatever it takes to keep Mia safe," Tyler assured her, his determination solidifying. "We'll find the truth together, but we have to be smart about it." They spent the next few hours sifting through reports and online forums, unearthing startling connections between various missing child cases and a network that had thrived in the shadows of the city. Sarah leaned over the laptop screen, her fingers dancing over the keyboard as she pulled up a map of New York, marking the locations of the reported sightings of missing children. "Look here," she said, pointing to a cluster of dots on the map. "These neighborhoods have the highest number of cases. It's as if the traffickers are targeting specific areas." Tyler leaned closer, their shoulders brushing together, igniting a spark of unspoken tension between them. "We should start there," he suggested, his voice low. "Maybe we can talk to some locals, see if anyone has any leads." "Right," Sarah agreed, her voice barely above a whisper as she absorbed the gravity of their mission. "We can split up and cover more ground. I'll take this section, and you can handle the other side." "Are you sure about this?" Tyler asked, concern etched on his face. "I don't want you to put yourself in danger." "I've faced danger before," she replied, her eyes fierce. "I won't back down now, not when Mia is at stake." Reluctantly, Tyler nodded, admiring her resolve. They exchanged phone numbers and detailed plans before Sarah left, determination etched in her features as she stepped into the bustling city streets. Tyler watched her go, feeling an inexplicable pull towards her. They were two broken souls seeking redemption in a world filled with darkness. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Tyler set off to the neighborhood he would be investigating. The streets were less crowded, shadows creeping into the corners of alleyways and storefronts. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach as he approached the first house on his list, the peeling paint and rusted gate, a stark reminder of the hardships faced by many. He knocked hesitantly, the sound echoing in the stillness. A few moments passed before the door creaked open, revealing an elderly woman with weary eyes. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice raspy. "Hi, I'm Tyler. I'm looking for information about a missing baby," he began, carefully choosing his words. "There have been several cases in the area, and I was hoping you might know something." The woman's brow furrowed and she stepped back, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting someone to appear from the shadows. "I don't know anything about that," she said cautiously. "You should leave it alone." "Please," Tyler pressed, sensing her fear. "I'm just trying to help. If you know something, it could save a child's life." Her expression softened slightly, but she shook her head. "You don't understand. There are things in this city that are better left buried. You're a good man, but you don't want to get involved in this." "Then help me understand," he urged. "I can't just walk away knowing there's a child in danger." After a moment of silence, the woman sighed, her resolve crumbling. "There are rumors, whispers of a group that takes children. They're not just taking them from the streets, they're snatching them from homes. I've seen it happen. You don't want to cross them." Tyler felt a chill run down his spine. "Is there anything more specific, names, locations?" She hesitated, glancing around once more before leaning in close. "I've heard talk of a warehouse down by the docks. They say it's where they keep the children before selling them off. But if you go there, you must be careful. They have eyes everywhere." "Thank you," Tyler said, his heart racing. "You've done more than you know." As he made his way back to his car, the weight of the woman's words hung heavily on him. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was stepping into a world far darker than he had imagined. But he couldn't turn back now, not with Mia counting on him. Later that evening, Tyler received a message that sent shivers down his spine. It was an anonymous text, the words short and menacing. "Back off. This is not your fight. Leave the kid alone." His heart raced as he stared at the screen, the implications of the message crashing over him like a wave. He had been warned, but something inside him ignited with a fierce determination. He couldn't let fear dictate his actions. Protecting Mia was his priority now, and he would not back down. With renewed resolve, Tyler dialed Sarah's number, his heart pounding in his chest. "We need to meet," he said when she answered, urgency in his voice. "I've got some information, but it's not safe to talk over the phone." "Okay, where?" she replied, her tone instantly serious. Let's meet at the cafe on 5th. I'll explain everything. As he walked to the cafe, Tyler couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The streets, once familiar and vibrant, now felt like a maze of shadows, each corner hiding potential threats. He knew they were delving into something far more dangerous than they had anticipated, but with Sarah by his side, he felt a flicker of hope. When he arrived, he found Sarah seated at a corner table, her eyes scanning the room. She looked up as he approached, relief washing over her features. "You're okay," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Barely," Tyler replied, sliding into the seat opposite her. "I found someone who knows about the trafficking. There's a warehouse at the docks." Sarah's eyes widened, a mix of fear and determination reflecting in her gaze. "We need to go there tonight." "Are you sure about this?" Tyler asked, concern creeping into his voice. "This is getting serious, and we don't know what we're walking into." "I can't just sit back and do nothing," she insisted, her resolve unshakable. "Not after what I've learned. We owe it to Mia to uncover the truth." With a heavy heart, Tyler nodded. They both knew the stakes had been raised, but there was no turning back. Together they would face whatever darkness awaited them, united by the tiny life that had brought them together. The road ahead was fraught with danger, but in that moment they felt a flicker of courage, a shared purpose that ignited their spirits. They would find Mia's family, and they would stop at nothing to protect her from the threats that loomed in the shadows. The rain drummed steadily against the pavement as Tyler and Sarah approached the local shelter, a modest building tucked away in a less affluent part of the city. Its exterior, once bright and inviting, had dulled over the years, mirroring the struggles faced by those who sought refuge within its walls. As they stepped inside, the scent of dampness and worn fabric enveloped them, mingling with the faint aroma of coffee and hope. "Are you sure about this?" Sarah asked, her voice laced with uncertainty. She fidgeted with the hem of her jacket, glancing around at the worn faces of those waiting. Tyler nodded, his resolve firm despite the unease swirling within him. "We need to follow every lead we can find. If there's even a chance we can uncover something about Mia's past, we owe it to her." They approached the front desk, where a tired-looking woman with tired eyes sat, sorting through a stack of papers. Tyler cleared his throat, leaning slightly forward to catch her attention. "Excuse me," he began, his voice steady but gentle. "We're looking for information about a woman, someone who might be involved in unusual activities involving children." The woman raised an eyebrow, her expression shifting from disinterest to curiosity. "You'll need to be more specific," she replied, her tone cautious. "Recently, we've heard about a woman who has been selling babies," Sarah interjected, her urgency evident. "We believe she may have connections to a girl who went missing a few weeks ago." The woman's expression darkened. "You're not the first to come asking about her," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "That kind of thing doesn't just happen in the shadows. It's a whole network. People are scared." "Scared?" Tyler echoed, his brow furrowing. "What do you mean?" "People have disappeared trying to expose her," the woman revealed, her gaze darting to the door as if expecting someone to enter. "You need to be careful. If you find her, don't get involved. Just go to the police." "We can't do that," Sarah insisted, her voice rising slightly. "Mia's life is at stake. We can't just walk away." The woman sighed deeply, glancing around the room to ensure no one was listening. "Fine. If you really want to help, I heard whispers about a woman named Clara. She might have the answers you're looking for. Just be cautious." Tyler and Sarah exchanged determined glances, the weight of their mission pressing heavily on their shoulders. "Thank you," Tyler said, his voice low but filled with gratitude. "We'll find her." As they stepped back into the rain, the world outside seemed darker, cloaked in shadows. The streets glistened under the streetlights, reflecting the turmoil they faced. "Clara," Sarah murmured, her mind racing with possibilities. "Do you think she'll help us?" Tyler shrugged, his thoughts torn between hope and dread. "She might, but we need to be prepared for anything. If she's involved in something illegal, we might not get the warm welcome we're hoping for." Their journey led them to a dilapidated apartment building on the outskirts of town. The air felt heavy with tension as they approached the entrance, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the silence. "What if she's not home?" Sarah asked, her apprehension evident. "Then we keep looking," Tyler replied, his determination unwavering. "We can't give up now." As they climbed the creaking stairs, Tyler's heart raced. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown. When they reached the third floor, he knocked on the door, his knuckles rapping against the wood with a sense of urgency. A moment passed before the door creaked open, revealing a woman with wild hair and weary eyes. Her gaze swept over them cautiously. "What do you want?" "Are you Clara?" Tyler asked, hoping for a glimmer of recognition. "Depends on who's asking," she replied, crossing her arms defensively. "Please, we need to talk," Sarah interjected, desperation creeping into her voice. "It's about a baby, a girl named Mia." Clara's eyes narrowed, suspicion filling the air. "I don't know any Mia, you should leave." "Wait," Tyler said, stepping forward. "We're not here to cause trouble. We just want to understand what's happening. We've heard you might know something about the woman selling babies." Clara hesitated, her expression shifting as she weighed her options. Finally, she sighed, stepping aside to allow them entry. "Fine, but if you're here to waste my time, I'll make sure you regret it." Once inside, the apartment was a chaotic blend of clutter and desperation. Papers littered the floor, and the faint smell of stale cigarettes lingered in the air. Tyler and Sarah exchanged glances, a silent understanding forming between them. "Look, we're just trying to find Mia's family," Tyler said, his tone earnest. "We believe she's in danger. We need your help." Clara's expression softened slightly, but her eyes still held a guarded look. "You don't understand. This isn't just some simple case of a missing kid. There are people, dangerous people, who will do anything to protect their interests." "We're aware of that," Sarah said, her voice steady, "but we can't let fear hold us back. Mia deserves a chance." Clara studied them for a moment, the tension in the room palpable. "You really care about her, don't you?" "Yes," Tyler replied, his voice low but filled with conviction. "More than anything." With a reluctant sigh, Clara relented, moving to a cluttered table and rummaging through a stack of papers. "All right, but I'm putting myself at risk by telling you this. There's a woman named Veronica who's been running things around here. She's the one you want to find. But be warned, she won't take kindly to anyone snooping around." The gravity of Clara's words hung in the air, and Tyler felt a chill run down his spine. "Where can we find her?" "Last I heard, she was operating out of an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town," Clara replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I don't advise going there. It's crawling with her people." "Thank you," Sarah said, her voice filled with gratitude. "We'll be careful." As they left Clara's apartment, the weight of their mission felt heavier than ever. The rain had intensified, soaking them to the bone as they made their way back to the car. "I can't believe we're actually doing this," Sarah said, her voice trembling slightly. "We have to," Tyler replied, determination etched into his features. "For Mia." As they drove through the rain-soaked streets, their hearts raced with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The thought of confronting Veronica filled them with dread, yet they knew they couldn't turn back now. "Do you think Clara will be safe?" Sarah asked, glancing nervously out the window. Tyler's grip on the steering wheel tightened. "I hope so. But we can't worry about that right now. We need to focus on finding Mia." As they approached the warehouse, a sense of foreboding settled over them. The dilapidated structure loomed ahead, its windows shattered and its walls covered in graffiti. "This is it," Tyler said, his voice low. "Are you ready?" Sarah took a deep breath, nodding slowly. "Let's do this." They stepped out of the car, the rain pelting down on them as they approached the entrance. The air felt electric with tension, and they exchanged one last glance, a silent promise to support each other through whatever lay ahead. Together, they entered the darkness of the warehouse, their hearts pounding in unison as they prepared to face the unknown. The rain had subsided to a light drizzle, casting a misty veil over the city as Tyler and Sarah stood in front of the nondescript warehouse. The imposing structure loomed before them, its rusty exterior and boarded-up windows giving it an air of secrecy. A single flickering light bulb swung from a chain above the entrance, illuminating the shadows that danced in the corners. They had received an anonymous tip about this place, a potential nexus for the child trafficking ring they had been investigating. Tyler's heart raced with both fear and determination. "Are you sure about this?" Sarah whispered, her eyes darting nervously around the dimly lit area. "We could be walking into a trap." Tyler glanced at her, appreciating the concern etched on her face. Despite their growing bond and shared purpose, this was no small venture. "We have to try, Sarah. If Mia's mother is really here, we owe it to her to find out the truth." Taking a deep breath, they stepped forward, the sound of their footsteps echoing against the concrete. The heavy door creaked open at the slightest push, revealing a cavernous space filled with shadows and the faint scent of dampness. Tyler's instincts kicked in, his senses heightened as he scanned the interior. Rows of crates lined the walls, some marked with foreign labels that hinted at illicit dealings. "Let's stick together," he instructed, his voice low but steady. Sarah nodded, her expression resolute as she gripped the flashlight tighter. They moved carefully through the darkness, the beam of light cutting through the gloom. Each step felt heavy with anticipation, the silence amplifying the sound of their breathing. A faint noise suddenly pierced the stillness, an echo of muffled voices drifting from a room at the end of the corridor. Tyler exchanged a glance with Sarah, a silent agreement passing between them. They approached the door cautiously, the tension palpable. As they neared the door, Tyler could hear fragments of the conversation. "I told you to keep her hidden," a woman's voice hissed, laced with urgency. "They can't find out." Tyler's pulse quickened. Could it be Mia's mother? He nodded at Sarah, who was already preparing to push the door open. With a swift motion, they entered the room. The sight that met them was both shocking and heartbreaking. In the dim light, a woman sat on the floor, her hair disheveled and her clothes tattered. She looked up, her eyes wide with fear and surprise. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "What do you want?" "Are you Mia's mother?" Tyler asked, his heart racing. "We're here to help you." The woman hesitated, searching their faces for sincerity. I am," she whispered, a mixture of relief and despair flooding her features. "But you shouldn't have come here. They'll find you." "Who will find us?" Sarah pressed, stepping closer. "We need to know what's going on. We've been looking for you." "Mia is in danger," the woman breathed, her voice barely a whisper. "I had to go into hiding. They took her from me and I had to do everything I could to protect her. I thought I could keep her safe, but they're always watching." Tyler felt a surge of anger and compassion. "We want to help you reunite with her. Can you tell us who is behind this?" As the woman began to speak, her voice wavering, Sarah's eyes widened in shock. "Wait," she interjected, her breath catching in her throat. "What's your name?" "Lila," the woman replied, her gaze flickering between Tyler and Sarah. Lila Harper, the name hung in the air, heavy with unspoken history. Sarah's face paled as the pieces began to fall into place. "Lila? Harper? Are you—" "Yes," Lila interrupted, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm your sister, Sarah. I never wanted to leave you, but things spiraled out of control. I had to protect Mia from our past." Tyler felt the weight of the moment settle around them. The air grew thick with emotion as Sarah stepped back, her mind racing. "I thought you were gone," she breathed, her voice trembling. "I've searched for you for years. I thought you'd abandoned me." Lila shook her head, her expression pained. "I was forced into hiding after everything that happened. I couldn't risk putting you in danger. They were after our family, and I thought if I disappeared, they would leave you alone." "But we could have faced it together," Sarah exclaimed, her voice rising with frustration and hurt. "You left me alone to deal with it all." "I did what I thought was best," Lila replied, her voice breaking. "I've been living in fear. I thought I could protect you both." Tyler watched the sisters navigate their emotional turmoil, feeling like an outsider in a deeply personal moment. Yet at the same time, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The revelation of their connection brought hope, a thread of possibility woven through the chaos surrounding them. "Listen," Tyler said, stepping forward to bridge the gap between the sisters. "We can't change the past, but we can change what happens next. We need to come up with a plan to get Mia back safely, and expose whoever is behind this trafficking ring. Lila wiped her tears, her determination reigniting. You're right. We can't let them win. Mia deserves better. As they strategized, Tyler felt a sense of empowerment blossoming within him. The loneliness that had plagued him for so long was dissipating, replaced by a sense of belonging. He had not only discovered a purpose in protecting Mia, but he was also becoming part of a family bond that had been shattered by fear and misunderstanding. I know where they keep her, Lila said suddenly, her voice steadying. There's a hidden location, a place I overheard them talking about. We can get there before they move her again. Then let's go, Tyler urged, his adrenaline pumping. We don't have a moment to waste. The three of them moved with newfound urgency, their bond solidified by the shared mission ahead. As they made their way out of the warehouse, Tyler felt a renewed sense of hope. They stepped into the night, the rain now a gentle mist that clung to their skin. Tyler glanced at Sarah and Lila, both emboldened by their connection. They were no longer just two strangers fighting for a child. They were family, united by love and the fierce desire to protect what mattered most. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to bring Mia home and reclaim the life that had been stolen from them.